Welcome to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
Always a pleasure to host with you.
It is, man. Happy to be in your presence.
Likewise.
I enjoy being here, working with you.
Thank you.
Making these shows happen.
Yeah, for our community.
Yeah, it's for the community. It's not about us.
Right.
Don't get it twisted.
Right.
It's about the community.
And speaking of the community, we want to thank our sponsors, Lee Castle and Crowley.
Right.
Need help? They can help you.
Yeah, all you got to do is call that number and they'll make sure that you get the help that you need. We have one of the leading Christian daycares and academy in our city,
Yeah.
Fervent Prayer.
Yes.
Tell us about that real quickly.
Christian, clean, and convenient.
All right.
And Christian daycares and schools are closer to Christ.
We also have the Stewart Mortuary, who's been with our city for over 45, 50 years. They're here now, sponsoring Real People, Real Voices, and we're happy to have them.
Yeah, excited about that, and excited to have you on Sundays at 5:30 watching this show, and on Fridays.
Yes, on Fridays at 9:30, right before the football game.
And we're like the pregame.
Right, the pregame warm-up. Yeah. We like the pregame. You can see Real People, Real Voices on Friday at 9:30. Like us on Facebook as well. And,
go to our YouTube channel
right.
and subscribe there. You can watch this show when it's over, as well as others that you might have missed, and get pertinent information
yes,
that could help you and your family.
right, and our community as well.
Absolutely. So stay tuned right here, WHMB TV 40. We'll be back with our very special guest. It's a sheriff's race going on.
Yes, and we have
Bill
a
Benjamin.
hot product in the studio right now.
Yeah, we'll be back after this. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
And I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
And we're joined today by Chief Bill Benjamin, Director of Safety for Tinley Accelerated Schools.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, both of you men.
Thank you.
And certainly you're not a stranger to us or the folk who are watching. Served many years with the IMPD.
Yes.
And still have your coats muscles, I see.
Just try to hit it every other day.
They need a lot of help right now.
Yeah. I don't hit it as long as I used to.
Yeah.
But, just try to keep the waist down a little bit.
That's
all.
good. That's good.
Wow.
Tell us what you're here. Tell us what you're here for. Tell us what's happening.
I appreciate you men having me in Channel 40. I'm in the sheriff's race.
Mm-hmm.
After 33 years of wearing the badge here in this county and taking a hard look here recently at the violence in our county and some of the things that are going on in the jail and some of the ideals that I have to make this a better place for us to live. I love Indianapolis. I love Marion County. We have chosen, my wife and I have chosen that we want to join the race and win the race. And so we put our name in as candidate for the Marion County Sheriff's Office. We feel like that after 33 years of serving the people, we still have 8 more years in us. That means 2 terms to do. So
That's great. That's great. So now you're in the race now.
yes, sir.
And you bring a wealth of experience. Tell us about your experience other than the 32. Tell us what you've done in the span of 33 years.
Real quickly, I was a Marine Corps officer. I played a little ball here in Indianapolis with the Indianapolis Colts. And I even played while I was an IPD officer before we merged in 1987. We were ASC Eastern Division champions. I was on that team. Moving forward into law enforcement, I've worked with the youth, and I plan to work with the youth again with the Sheriff's Office, leading the POW Club for 5 years as a sergeant. Then went into gangs and was a gang task force commander for a couple of years until I was laterally transferred into homicide, and I did not like that transfer, but that transfer really brought credibility to my work. I did not know that, working homicide would launch me in law enforcement as a person that the community could talk to and give me answers, and we could solve crimes and prevent crimes. And so I served in homicide for about 7.5 years as a sergeant and a lieutenant, and then was promoted to major on the Southeast District as a commander on the executive staff once we merged. I stayed there about a year, and then the department felt they needed me again back in investigations, so I was assistant division commander of investigations division, and then later promoted to deputy chief. In 2008, 9, and 10, we reduced violent crime in our county, in our city. We slowed the murder pace and rate down to the point where one year we were under 100. And in 2010, we led the nation as far as a city our size or larger with a clearance rate of 81%, something we're proud of. That work brought 2 TV shows to our department, Crime 360 and The Shift, which depicted the fine work of the men and women that I work with and working with the community to reduce violent crime, solve murders, and get answers to loved ones, you know, from the fallen victims. And so we were proud of that. And I feel like we have a lot left, and we're not in a crime spike right now. Crime is on the rise. It's not a spike. And it's continuing to rise year after year after year. And I wanted to do something about it, so I came off the sidelines out of retirement. I retired in 2012 and felt that I could lend a hand some way, somehow. And with the sheriff's office being available in 2019, we chose to announce and run a course in 17 and on into 18.
Okay.
So you talked about the clearance rates, and a lot of our viewers may not know what the clearance rates are about, but nationally, that's something that's tracked by the FBI.
Correct.
And it's the department's ability to, as I understand it, solve these cases.
Correct.
Which you kind of alluded to, giving answers to families. Currently in the city of Indianapolis, the clearance rates are very, very low.
Correct.
Certainly not the 81%. Under your leadership, at one point, Indianapolis and the department led the whole nation with the ability to do that. In fact, it was on the street that if you killed somebody in the morning,
Bill Benjamin would have you
by midnight.
by midnight. That's what that was on the street. We can't take that away from you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question, because a lot of people, and this might not, there's a hot item in our community, and that is the snitch ideology. And I think when we talk about that ideology, I think it has a lot to be desired based on the fact that if someone does that, or falls in that type of ideology, there is no protection for that particular person. And so I don't think we ought to beat parents down for trying to protect the lives of their children if they see something when there's nothing to protect those children. How do you feel about that, if they do that?
Our method, and the method I used for years, was certainly I kept my word with the community. I kept my word with families. I kept my word with those who chose to give us information that their names would not be brought up, even to the point of being ordered to give a name in court, because I know about retaliation and the violence that comes with retaliation.
That's real, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It is real. And there's some fine detectives up there. They're struggling right now. The community does have a problem with communicating with police.
Right.
The group and the unit that I have, and I always say, through God, through good people, and I had great teammates in those years, we kept our word with those who would give us information. And something I'm quite proud of, I never purchased information. I never went to the safe and gave an informant fund out for information to solve a murder. The community trusts me and I trust them, and I kept my word and kept those folks out of it. That's something that needs to continue nationwide. Once you have the community on your side, and of course I work with you men and other faith-based leaders and the community leaders out there where information would come my way and they wouldn't even mention the name, but the facts would be true. And our detectives worked off those facts, thus solving cases. When you solve murders and solve them quickly, it will slow down the murder pace and the murder rate, because the next person that thinks about taking another person's life will think twice. They're catching them, and they're catching them quickly. I don't think I want to deal with that. And we weren't using SWAT teams and blocking off streets. We weren't doing it that way. We were in homes and dining rooms and living rooms talking with loved ones, friends and family members to get to suspects to solve cases. And just good old-fashioned, hard-nosed police work, but keeping our word with the community.
Well, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, want to talk about how you plan to run a humane jail. Right now, the conditions in the jail are not the best with regard to human dignity. So how will you work with what you have? And of course, Indianapolis is soon to have a criminal justice center, brand new.
Yes, sir.
When we come back, we'll talk about that just a little bit more. We're here with Chief Bill Benjamin. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
And we're joined today by Chief Bill Benjamin, who's currently the Director of Safety for Tinley Accelerated Schools.
Yes, sir.
In fact, Tinley is a great school.
It is.
Great school, great school system.
It is something that they lay down their coats, lean their hats on is college or die for scholars there. We call them scholars. Every child that's ever graduated from Tinley Accelerated School has at least one letter of acceptance to an accredited university or college. And that's what Tinley's quite proud of, and I'm quite proud to be an employee there.
Yeah. So when we talk about, and just before the break, we talked about running a humane jail. Certainly the infrastructure, it has a lot to do with that. And should you win the race, you probably wouldn't have the new infrastructure with regard to brick and mortar right away.
Right.
So how would you, what kind of changes would you make to run a humane jail?
What a lot of folks don't know is after retirement, I served 4.5 years with the Marion County Sheriff's Office as a reserve officer, and I rose to the rank of captain over there. One of my assignments was for about 3 to 4 hours a day, walking the jail ranges and not saying a word. The inmates would talk to me. If they had a complaint, a reasonable complaint, I would write that complaint down, and then I would farm that complaint out to those who are supposed to look into the complaint. One of the largest complaints over there was mental health. The inmates would speak to me about I'm not getting my meds. I'm not being able to see the doctor. I should have had my meds last week. I don't want to do anything to hurt myself or hurt anybody else in here. I come back 2 or 3 days later, and the complaint from the same inmates would be the same. I'm going to look into full wraparound services for medical and mental health. A lot of those inmates in there, in my mind, don't belong in jail. They belong in a situation what we call ID, to immediately detain a person who has a mental illness and find out what the problem is. Is it their medication? Is it treatment from doctors? Is it the fact that they need to be in a facility and not in jail? I learned while working inside a jail, 40% of the inmates in there have mental illness issues and may not necessarily need to be inmates in jail. And it really bothered me. Jail overcrowding is an issue. Too many inmates in a small facility, and that's why the current sheriff has to farm, well, I'll say farm out, but send those inmates.
Relocate them.
Relocate them to other jails.
To subsidize the crowd.
Yes, sir, within the state of Indiana and even as far as Kentucky. And so it makes it hard for loved ones to see their loved ones who are incarcerated awaiting trial or waiting to go to DLC that really bothered me. Another thing that bothered me was the gear, the outfits. Inmates were supposed to have 3 of each, 3 pair of boxers, 3 outfits, a pair of shoes, and a lot of times they did not have the items that they needed, including toiletries. It really bothered me while I was in there. And so those are changes that I can make immediately through proper contracting, proper supervision, proper monitoring.
So you're going to look at the contracting system,
Absolutely.
and you hope that you can make some changes as sheriff, Marion County Sheriff, through the contracting system.
Yes.
Do you plan to look at minority businesses as it relates to contracting?
Absolutely, and on my palm card that I've been handing out for 5 months, we're going to take a look at the contracting system and recreate how you bid for certain contracts. With a new person sitting in that seat, there's going to be new ideas, new initiatives, and so not the same old group doing the same old thing, getting the same old results. I'm going to assemble probably one of the best law enforcement teams over there in the sheriff's office to include some old teammates that are on my committee currently right now. So we're definitely going to look at minority businesses and give them an opportunity to bid and bid proper, and not necessarily the lowest bidder. It's the quality of service that you're going to render to the sheriff's department. Yes, sir.
That's good.
And in addition to that, one of your goals is to fight for higher wages and benefits for the folk who work in the jail.
Well, there are currently about 260 deputies that work in the jail. There's about another 140 deputies that work outside the jail. Those men and women are paid 40% less than those who serve on IMPD right now. 40% less with salary and benefits. And I'm going to work towards bringing their salaries up, getting them better benefits, and it also lends to, once you do that, morale increases. And so the value of the life of a deputy versus the value of the life of an IMPD officer, what's the difference? You're still interacting with some of the most violent people that our county produces. And so salaries should be close. I'm not talking about matching, but closer than what they are.
Oh, outstanding. I want to give you an opportunity to say something to a lot of the viewers who may be thinking about voting for you.
I would say to the viewers, if you are looking for a jailer or a bailiff only, I'm not your person for that. But if you're looking for a law enforcement sheriff that's going to fight to reduce violent crime, run a humane jail, treat the men and women of the sheriff's department very well, then I'm your person for that. I've been tested, I've been vetted, I've been assessed, I've been evaluated, I've even been investigated, which allows me and my family, my committee, and supporters for us to run in this race. I'm certainly committed. We've got a lot of great people on our team that are ready to get to work. We just have to go through the process of campaigning and getting the word out that Bill Benjamin is running for sheriff. My last billet with IMPD was the Deputy Chief of Operations, which was the chief that oversaw all the 900 men and women that drove around in our white police cars and taking calls for service. So I have led a large volume of officers, and we were successful in reducing crime, and the morale was very high at that time. Looking forward to meeting a lot of you out there. I am going to do some door knocking and looking forward to your support. I ask everyone to register to vote. If you have moved within the last 2 years, then you have been purged from the list and you are not registered. You have to re-register if you've moved in the last 2 years. Vote for your best candidate, and I hope that person is me.
All the best to your candidacy, and thanks for stopping by today.
Appreciate both of you, man, for having me.
Thanks for coming, Chief. Appreciate it.
And we
you,
hope
sir.
to have you out on October 28th, Sickle Cell Telethon on Channel 40, broadcasting from Martin University live.
3 to 6.
Beautiful. If I'm healthy, I'm gonna be right here. I'll be here.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
And thank you all for joining us today. We have the rundown. We got to take a break. We'll be back after this. Well, welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
And I'm Curtis Baker, Marketing Director.
Wonderful time there with Chief Benjamin.
Chief Benjamin came on and gave some good input on what he plans to do if he becomes Marion County Sheriff. He talks administratively. He talks resultatively as it relates to crimes. And I think that's one piece that Indianapolis needs.
Yeah.
Well, I like that compassionate part, you know, when you know, I guess the inmates are there and he has spoke about the amount of clothes they had to change into and the shoes. And, you know, a lot of times we, you know, for whatever reason, some people are there on their own, and some people are there mistakenly, but they're there and still should be treated as human beings. And I think that's when someone talks that way, they get my attention, that, you know, treat people with compassion regardless of what the situation was.
Yeah.
Matters of human dignity.
Right.
And what I really like about it is the WHMB TV Channel 40 has went to lengths to inform the community about what's about to take place next year as it relates to our Marion County Sheriff. They need to be commended on allowing these type of things to take place in central Indianapolis and Indiana and Marion County and everywhere else. Because we reached 1.3, I believe.
1.5.
1.5. Well, when we first started this show, it was 1.3.
It was 1.3.
But since Real People, Real Voices,
200,000.
200,000 more people.
We've had a part in it.
the Lord has blessed
Yes.
tremendously, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah. So, and thank you, Curtis.
And thank you, Curtis.
Well, thank you. I really, you know, we appreciate you guys when you come here in the building, that everybody is always looking forward to Real People, Real Voices.
Thank you so much.
And looking forward to Shapiro's catering.
Yeah, Shapiro's has been on
That's what I
point.
wanted to
And I
say.
want to say to my dear friend, because she helps us, Miss Rhonda Good. She does a great
Right.
job at Shapiro's, making sure we're straight here on the set, and our camera people who are behind the scenes are doing well.
Right. I want to make sure I had no corned beef in my teeth when I was
Okay.
talking.
We'll see you next time.
God bless.